Hi everybody, it's Geordie from Geordie Colours. Thank you for joining me today. I am starting a new little series on my channel. I thought this would just be a fun one to do. It's going to be my super quick and easy full book colour along, and we are going to be using R.J.Hampson's Awake book. Now I have downloaded the book and I have printed it onto some Transitite perfect colouring paper, which is ideal for alcohol markers. So this is what I'll be using, and I'll be using just my alcohol markers to make it really super quick and easy. My printer is not the best, so you will see that I have a few little kind of marks on my page from my printer. I'm not going to worry about it. This is just meant to be fun, quick and easy. Okay, so when I'm using my alcohol markers, I'm using my Ohuhus. So I have the little kind of sheet here that they provide in the packs. And this is to prevent any bleed through from the marker going through onto any work surface. And when you're using alcohol markers, it's a good idea to use a nice smooth paper. So this Transitite perfect colouring paper is really smooth and it's just perfect for markers. So I have the Ohuhu, the Honolulu Series, and I have the 216 marker set along with the skin tone set. So altogether, what's that? There's 36 in the skin tone and 216, so that's what, 252 markers to choose from, so it's quite a good range. The reason I like the Honolulu is because they have the brush nibs, and I do like to use the brush nibs when I'm colouring. Okay, so I'm going to start with my giraffe here, and I have picked out 4 yellows for my giraffe. So when I'm colouring, I generally like to use a light, a medium and a dark shade of my alcohol markers and kind of take it from there. So I am using YR2, Y2, Y3 and Y121. And I'm going to start with my darkest marker. I always like to start with my darkest. Just going to make sure that sheet is behind where I need it. And I like to lay in my shadows first. So I kind of think about where my shadows are going to be and how they're going to fit with the rest of my picture. I don't worry too much because when you're using markers, you will blend out. So don't worry too much. I'm going over these dots with a darker color, so I'm not going to be too worried about the fact that I'm getting a little bit of yellow onto those kind of dots of the of my, what's he called, giraffe. I can't think of what he was then. So yeah, that's not going to be too much of a problem. So I'm just adding that darker marker all the way around where I want my shadow to be. So I'm kind of just outlining his kind of form here a little bit. I might even take it a little bit darker through these parts. And like I say, don't worry too much if you go over the edge of these giraffe dots, because we're going to be colouring that in a darker shade anyway, so it's not going to make too much of a difference. Right, I'm going to leave it there for now, because what you want to do when you're using your markers is to try and keep the paper wet, because that will make a difference. So it will help you blend the marker. So again, I'm just kind of going over the areas that I've already coloured and just spreading them out a little bit further. And the key to it is to go over it a few times to get a nice blend. So that's why you kind of want to keep using the markers when they're wet. Like, don't leave them to dry for too long, because it helps with the blending process. So I'm just pulling that color out a little bit further, just kind of creating a bit of a darker part around the edge of him here. And like I say, again, don't stress too much if you go over the spots on him, because we're going to be using a darker shade. So you just might need to work back and forth over the kind of junctions between those colors a little bit so that you get it blended out. Okay, once that's done, I'm going to go in with my next lightest, which is the Y3, and I'm pretty much going to fill up the rest of the space now. So again, I'm going to go over those transition areas just to blend them out and help pull that color together. So this one is quite a lot lighter than the previous one I just used, so I might need to work a little bit harder to make it kind of blend, but that just means going over those areas a few times just to get the marker nice and wet, get the paper nice and wet so that it blends out and looks a little bit more kind of natural and cohesive, doesn't look kind of too odd. Again, I'm just going to go over that a few times just to get that blend nice and smooth. So with this kind of little belly part here, I want to do that lighter again. So that's where my 1, 2, 1, so yeah, 1, 2, 1 is going to come in. So I'm just going to leave that area for now and just concentrate on these parts here. And like I say, don't stress too much if you go over those dots, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter too much if you go over a little bit on this part, because I'm going to do something with that as well. What you want to do is just concentrate on getting that nice blend so that it looks kind of nice and natural. And it's such a cute image. I just love the images in this book, and I thought they would be so cute and fun and relaxing to do as a bit of a color along. And I like using my markers on these types of images because they're nice and easy, and the markers make it nice and quick. You don't have to stress too much about taking your time. It's a nice, quick, relaxing color, and sometimes that's just what you want. Okay, so that's where we're at now. I'm going to go back to my darkest marker and work on his legs. So I'm going to start with this one here, and again, I'm just adding a kind of line of shadow along his legs, and kind of anywhere where there's like a little dip or anything that might be a hint of a joint or a bone. Back in with my next darkest, which is the Y2, and again just working to blend out those areas and make those transitions between the colors nice and smooth. And then finally back in with my Y3, and I'm going to blend it all out. Again, just go over those transition areas a couple of times till you get a kind of nice smooth transition between the colors. Okay. It's good to work in little sections because it's a lot easier to work in little sections because the marker won't dry out. So like I say, the key to using alcohol markers is to keep it nice and kind of wet, keep the paper nice and wet so that the markers blend together and create a nice transition between the colors. And I always like to go in with my darkest marker first. I just find that easier so I can see where my shadows are going to be, lay in my shadows first, and then go over with my lightest. Some people prefer to put the lightest shade down, and some people prefer to color the whole thing with the lightest shade and then go in with the darker markers to create the kind of shadows. But for me, laying down the darkest marker is my preferred method. But you can try out what works for you. But I just like doing it this way. He's got a bit of a knee joint there, so I'm going to add a little line there. And we're just going back and forth, like I say, with the different colors, just creating a nice smooth transition between the colors so you get that nice blend from darkest to lightest. And it is important to cap your markers. I know it's annoying to keep going back and forth and capping the markers, but it just stops them from drying out. It's really important, especially here where I live, because I live in air conditioning. It can dry things out pretty quickly. Okay, so let's have a look at this leg now. This is kind of like the main big leg. I'm just gonna bring that darkest marker up here. Gonna create a little bit of a circle where his knee is, and just add a little bit of darkness on that side. And then his leg kind of curls around under here, so we're going to add some shadow in there as well. Okay, back in with my Y2, keep getting the wrong end of the marker, and we're just going to blend that out again. And like I say, I just kind of go over those transition areas a few times to get the marker to blend out nicely and create kind of nice seamless transition between the two colours. I'll leave a tiny bit of space there for the lightest marker. It's mostly in shadow. Oh, I keep getting the wrong end. But just a little bit of space there. And alcohol markers are really fun to use. They're great, especially if you've got the right paper. So like I say, this kind of really smooth paper is ideal for alcohol markers. It just makes life so much easier. Okay, that's pretty much my giraffe done. I just have this little tail to do here. So I'm gonna do, yeah, I'm gonna do his tail in the same yellows, kind of golden yellows. Just add a little bit of shading in various places. Do it again. Again, blending out with the lighter markers. I'm just gonna have a little bit of the lightest, and again. It's even got, like, it's got a mark on the cap so you can tell which end is the brush nib and which is the, so the grey end is the brush nib and the plain end is, and I still always get the wrong one. Okay, so that's pretty much the main part of my giraffe done. I'm gonna work on his belly now. So I'm gonna go in with that Y3 marker and the Y121. And I'm just gonna add a little bit of shading with the Y3, just a touch all around the edge there. And kind of underneath in these bits here. Just a touch of that. And then I'm gonna blend out with this lighter color. Oh, yeah, this one's a bit different because this is the skin tone set. So the gray line is actually where the fine end is. So this one's got a bullet tip and a brush tip. And the other ones have a brush tip and a chisel nib. So just gonna add a touch of this, just to make it a little bit lighter than the rest of him. Okay, so that's pretty much the main part of my giraffe done. I think when I've got these lighter markers out, I'm going to use the lighter markers for these parts of his legs. So again, I'm going to start with that Y3. Just add in some shadows where I want them. And then I'll go over with this Y121 and blend it out a bit. Just adds a touch of shading. Okay, now I'm going to come in with some browns. So I have YR92 and YR9. So these both come from the skin tone set. So I'm hoping these are going to work together because I haven't actually tried them. But we're going to add them to my giraffe spots. And again, I'm just kind of going in with a touch of the darker marker. And this is why you don't need to worry too much about going over the edge with those yellows, because these markers are quite a lot darker. And then I'm going to try and blend out with this one. And I think that works quite nicely. And I'm kind of trying to keep the shadow to the left-hand side of my giraffe. So I guess my light source is coming from this direction. Okay, let's go back in with some. And I'm just doing a few at a time because, like I say, I want to keep the paper nice and wet with the marker so that it doesn't dry out. And just adding some shadows in various places. And the spots kind of get bigger the further you go down, but I'm still just going to use the two markers. I'm not going to add a third one in. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like I say, quick, easy, fun colouring. And you can use Ohuhus, you can use whatever you've got. You just try and, you know, think about colours that work for what you want to do with it. you could go crazy with your colors. You could have a purple giraffe, or, you know, like a green giraffe, whatever you want to do. It's just a fun page, and it's just meant to be fun and relaxing and not stressful, which is kind of what coloring should be about, really. And I just thought if I did this kind of as a full book color along, then by the end of the year we should have a nice full colored book, because I think there's 50 pages. So when I downloaded them, they came in 5 sets of 10, and I've just printed off the first set so far. So I've got 10 images to go through, and I just thought I'd try and work through them in order, because yeah, they're all cute and they're all fun, so, and I want to colour them all. So I thought that was kind of the easiest way to do it. Okay, so just finish off some of these bigger spots here, and again just work over the edges of where you've got that darker marker, just to blend it out and make it a bit more seamless, so it doesn't look just like a big line. You want it to kind of blend out and look like it's, you know, like one whole thing, not just something with a bit of a darker line in it. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Okay, last few little spots here, and then we've got a few on his legs. And so you can see these darker markers are covering up any of the kind of lighter yellow that I managed to get on the dots, so they hide them pretty well. I do have to be a little bit more careful with the brown, because I don't want to end up with brown seeping all over the place. Okay, let's do his kind of main thing here. So again, I'm going to add a darker line all the way down, and then I'm just going to colour some of them in darker, and there's a few kind of skinnier little bits that I'm going to colour in with this darker marker. And the rest I'm going to go in, I might just do that a little bit down there as well. And then I'm just going to go in with the lighter brown again, and we're just going to blend out. Again, I'm just going to go over that original line of dark just to try and blend it out a little bit. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to darken up those darker ones again so that they really stand out. There we go, and I'm going to do the same with his tail. So you can kind of get quite fancy and add some flicks of, to make it look a bit more like hair. I'm not that fancy. Oops, I've gone out of the line. So I'll show you a trick at the end where if you go outside the lines where you don't want to, I'll show you how I can fix that. I'm just going to blend over those bits a little bit more. Okay, let's finish off the rest of his dots. These ones are quite small, so I do have to be a little bit careful that I don't go outside the lines. And the same with the rest of them down here. This is just those same 2 brown markers that I'm using throughout. Okay, last few little dots. I don't know if these have got a specific name. I don't know. Just spots, aren't they, really? So see, R.J.Hampson has started to do some colour alongs on his channel of some of these pages as well, which is really cool. And it's fun to watch him complete his pages as well. Okay, so that's all of the little dots done. Now I'm going to do his hooves. I presume they're called hooves on a giraffe. And I'm going to use the same browns for that. I don't want to go in with black, because I think black will look a little bit too harsh. So I'm just going to use these browns. Okay, one done. I'm just kind of adding some shadow around the bottom edges. Blending that out with the lighter one. And the same there. Okay, so that's my giraffe pretty much done. Oh, I forgot his little horn. I was going to do that brown as well, but I might actually do that in the yellows. Sorry, I've got planes going overhead. Every time I start recording, the planes start coming over. Okay, getting the wrong end. Okay, right. While I've got those browns out, I'm going to do the browns on everything else. So I'm going to do the easel in brown as well. Do I want to do the same browns? Or do I want to do a lighter brown? I think I'm going to do the same browns just to keep it all cohesive. So I'm going to think about my light's coming from that way. My shadows are going to be on the left hand side. Okay, and we'll do the bottom part here as well. It's a little bit trickier in these finer areas to do two colours, but we'll try our best. Blend those out as well. Okay, and I think I need to do the kind of base of the easel here as well. And then maybe the paintbrush too. It's going to be a bit darker under here where he's holding it. Just add a touch of the lighter colour in here. Okay, so I'm not sure what colour I'm going to do the paint palette yet. Come to that in a minute. For the canvas, I want to keep it pretty much white, but I'm going to add just a touch of shadow with my E280 marker. And so again, my shadows are going to be more on the left hand side because the light is coming from this direction. So I'm just going to add a touch of shadow like that. It's going to be a little bit shadowed under there and probably down this edge of the canvas as well and along the bottom. Okay, like I say, I pretty much want to keep it white. I might just go over that a little bit, and then I'm going to get my colourless blender. So the colourless blender is just basically alcohol. So, and it just, if you go over the edge, it'll just smooth out the edge and kind of help it fade into the white without it looking quite so harsh. So just kind of roughly go over the edge, and it will just help to smooth it out and make it a little bit more blended out. I forgot to do the top of my easel with my brown markers there, so I'm going to do that as well. Again, I'm just kind of presuming this is all wood and hoping for the best. Okay. Okay, so we haven't got much left to do. I need to do his hat and the paint and the paintbrush. So, what colours? I think I'm going to do his hat. Do I do it blue or red? I think I'm going to go with blue because it will contrast a bit more. So I have PB7 and PB8, my two blues that I'm using. And again, just gonna add in some shadow with my darker marker here, and then go over with my lighter one to blend it out a bit. And sometimes, like in the case of this one, if the colours are quite similar, I do go back in with my darker one just to kind of emphasize that shadow. Okay, so there's his hat. I'm going to add a touch of this blue paint onto his palette here. And I'm actually starting with my lighter colour this time, just to do something a little bit different, and then adding the darker around the edge. Let's make the paint tube blue as well. So it's a blue colour. Again, I'm going to start with my lightest. I'm just going to add the colour onto the cap and to the kind of label on here. I'm going to do something a bit fun with the actual tube and something a bit fun with the stem of my brush. I'm going to take my blue marker and just add some paint to the tip of my brush. Then I'm going to go back in with that same colour that I used for the canvas, which is E280, and I'm going to fill in the rest of my brush there, like that, just so it looks like it's got a bit of paint on the end. Okay, I'm going to add some red paint. So I've got R1 and R3 to add red paint. I'm going to add some yellow paint. Maybe he's doing a self-portrait. So I'm going to use a Y2 and Y3 that I used on my giraffe to add the yellow. Where can the yellow go? Let's put the yellow in here. And we'll do a little bit in here as well. 2 splodges of yellow. Okay, I'm going to add another touch of red on here. I don't want to add too many other colours because, yeah, I want to keep it simple. So I don't want to be using loads and loads of different colours. What colour am I going to do as palette? I don't really want to do it brown. So I might keep it white and do it similar to the canvas, so using the E280 marker. Just add a bit of shadow around the kind of left-hand edge and underneath. And then I'll take my colourless blender and just blend that out a little bit. Just want to be careful not to go over the other colours too much because it will pick up like the red and bleed it out a little bit if you're not careful. Okay, so that's pretty much done. I want to add a little bit of pink to his ears. So I'm going to use, let's see. I'm going to use this E470, which is called Tea Rose. I'm just going to add a touch of that to its ear there. And I just need to add a little bit there because I've got a little white spot there that I didn't colour. Okay, and then for the rest of it, I'm going to add some sparkly bits. So I'm going to use my, let's see, silver sparkle pop pen, if I can find it. There it is. Yeah, so I'm going to use my silver sparkle pop pen to add a touch of sparkle and shimmer. And I'm going to add that to this. I want it to look like it's a kind of screw holding that in. I'm going to add it to my paintbrush here as well. Kind of silver tip of the paintbrush, and I'm going to add it to my paint tube as well to make it look like a silver metallic tube with the paint inside it. Just to add a little bit of sparkle to the whole page. And yeah, once that's done, that's pretty much my page complete. I'm going to add a little bit of white gel pen detail just to make it a little bit fun. I'm going to use my my jelly roll, Secure jelly roll in the 10 size. I like the kind of bigger size because I don't want to smear that silver stuff I've just put down. I'm going to turn it slightly. Sorry, I know that's a bit annoying. And I'm just going to add some to his hat here. I'm going to add a little bit onto his nose and onto his forehead. I'm going to add a touch down the back of his mane here and a little bit onto his tail. Oh, that's what I was going to show you. So the little part where I bled out slightly onto the white, I'm going to take my white gel pen and just cover that up, and you'll never know it's there. So I'm going to take a little bit of the white gel pen and add it to his tail as well. Remember, this is meant to look fun, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Making sure I'm not smearing that. I'm going to add a little bit down his front here and just kind of, you know, have fun with it. Don't stress too much about where you're putting it. A little bit on the easel. It kind of just gives it a bit of a cartoony vibe, which I kind of like. Yeah, just makes it look a little bit fun. We'll add a little bit. I'm sorry, I keep turning it. I just don't want to smear anything that I've already put down. So I'm going to add a little bit around here. And it, like I say, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just to add a little bit of something to the page. On his knees, down his legs, and just I tend to just go over everything because it kind of makes it look more realistic, more like a, not that it's realistic, but you know what I mean, more like a kind of proper shine mark if you just go over everything and don't kind of avoid going over the dots or anything like that. Okay, do I want any more anywhere else, or is that enough? I might just add a touch to his tail here. And maybe a touch to this front leg here. A little bit down here. A little bit down here. A couple of dots as well, never goes astray. A bit on there, maybe a touch on my brush. And I think that will do. I might actually just put a little bit on his hooves as well. Make them look nice and shiny. Yeah, that's it. Page complete. Nice and quick and easy. You could do a background, you could have fun with it and do lots of stuff. I'm just going to keep it really simple, really easy, nice and relaxing colouring, just a bit of fun. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. So that is my first page from R.J.Hampson's Awake book, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for joining me, and I will be back next week with the next page. Take care, everybody. Bye.